Iran's most protected man is dead, not in Syria, not in Lebanon, not in Iraq, in Tehran, in his own office, in the most secure building in the Iranian capital, surrounded by the most sophisticated security apparatus Iran has ever built. And Israel reached him anyway. Here's exactly what happened. Tehran, Iranian Ministry of Intelligence and Security Headquarters, known as MOIS, the building that knows every secret Iran has, the organization that runs every Iranian intelligence operation worldwide, the agency that funds and directs every covert operation from Beirut to Buenos Aires. Its director was the most protected civilian official in the Islamic Republic, more protected than most IRGC generals, because his knowledge was more dangerous than any general's weapons. He knew where every asset was, every network, every operation, every secret. And at 10:47 hours on a Tuesday morning, he was gone. Let us go back 6 months, because this did not begin with an explosion. It began with a file, a Mossad file so sensitive that fewer than 12 people in the Israeli government knew it existed. The file contained something that had taken 4 years to build, a complete picture of the MOIS director's daily life. Not his public schedule, his real schedule, the one that existed nowhere in writing. The coffee he drank every morning at 0730 from a specific glass, the route his motorcade took to the ministry. A route that changed every day according to a rotation system. A rotation system that Niall believed was unbreakable. The specific conference room he used for his Tuesday morning intelligence review. The exact chair he sat in. The window behind him. The building across the street. The floors of that building. The maintenance access schedule for that building. 4 years to build that file and 1 morning to use it. The MOIS director had survived 11 previous assassination attempts. 11. Each one planned by a different actor. Each one defeated by his security apparatus. He was not arrogant about his survival. He was professional about it. He understood that his position made him a target. He had redesigned his security protocols after every previous attempt, learned from each failure, built a system that he believed had eliminated every vulnerability. He was almost right, almost. The vulnerability he had not eliminated was not a physical one. It was a human one. One person, inside his innermost circle, who had been providing information to Mossad for 3 years, not because they were coerced, not because they were paid, because they believed Iran was on the wrong path and wanted to do something about it. That person's identity will never be publicly known. What they provided enabled everything that followed. The operation was designated by a code name that has not been released. What is known is that it involved 3 separate elements. Element 1, the asset inside MOIS who provided the intelligence. Element 2, a technical team that had been in Tehran for 11 days before the operation, operating undercover. Not diplomats, not known intelligence personnel, people with legitimate reasons to be in Tehran, business travelers, academics, people who attracted no attention. Element 3, the weapon itself, which was not a missile, not a drone strike, not a car bomb. Something smaller, more precise, more deniable. The building across the street from the MOIS headquarters had been surveilled by Israeli intelligence for 2 years. Not continuously, in intervals, short enough to avoid establishing a pattern, long enough to understand everything about the building, who worked there, what hours, which floors were occupied when, the maintenance schedule, the security camera positions, the blind spots. On the Monday before the operation, 2 members of the technical team entered the building under legitimate pretexts. They did not stay long. They left something behind. Something small enough to fit inside a maintenance panel. Something that did not require a human operator once it was in position. Something that would activate at a specific time, when a specific signal was sent from a specific location outside Iran. Tuesday morning, 0730 hours. The MOIS director arrived at his office. His motorcade had taken Route 7 of the 12 rotation options. The asset had reported this before the motorcade left the director's residence. The information was in Tel Aviv within 4 minutes. 745 hours. The director took his first meeting of the day. Routine intelligence review. Nothing unusual. 900 hours. He moved to the Tuesday conference room. The one with the window. The one facing the building across the street. Sat in his chair. The chair that faced the window. 947 hours. The signal was sent from a location outside Iran. A signal that traveled through multiple routing points, untraceable, arriving at a receiver the size of a matchbox, inside a maintenance panel, in the building across the street. 947 hours and 11 seconds. The device activated. What happened in the next 3 seconds is known from the aftermath, not from any witness, because the people closest to it did not survive to give testimony. The device was not explosive. It was not a bullet. It was a focused, directed energy pulse, combined with a shaped fragmentation element, designed to penetrate a specific window, at a specific angle, to a specific point in a specific room, the window behind the MOIS director's chair. The device had been calibrated over 2 years of surveillance data, every measurement precise, every angle calculated. The 3 seconds ended, and the most powerful intelligence official in the Islamic Republic was no longer a threat to Israel. The MOIS security detail knew something had happened before the sound reached the corridor. The emergency protocols activated immediately, medical response in 40 seconds, building lockdown in 60 seconds, communication blackout in 90 seconds. None of it mattered. The response was complete. In 3 seconds, before the security detail heard anything. That is the point of the weapon, not power. Speed. Tehran learned what had happened in fragments. The supreme leader was briefed at 11:30 hours. 83 minutes after the operation. The briefing took 41 minutes. At the end of it, the supreme leader asked one question. How did they know where he was? The IRGC intelligence organization director who delivered the briefing had no answer. Because finding the answer required investigating the possibility that someone inside MOIS had provided the information. Investigating that possibility meant admitting that MOIS had been penetrated. The most secure intelligence organization in Iran, penetrated at its highest level. For an unknown period of time, the supreme leader asked the question again. How did they know? The silence in the room lasted 11 seconds. The implications of that silence extended far beyond the loss of one official. Every operation MOIS had been running was now compromised. Not potentially compromised, compromised. Because if an asset inside MOIS had provided the director's Tuesday morning location, that asset had access to everything the director had access to, which was everything. Every network, every agent, every operation, every asset in every country. The emergency recall of Iranian intelligence assets worldwide began within 6 hours. Not because Iran knew specifically what had been compromised, because they could not know what had been compromised. And when you cannot know the extent of a penetration, you assume the worst. The worst was everything. In the 48 hours after the operation, 47 Iranian intelligence assets worldwide went dark. Some voluntarily recalled, some on their own initiative. 3 did not respond to recall signals. Their status is unknown. The Iranian intelligence networks in Europe, North America, Southeast Asia, all went into emergency hibernation protocols simultaneously. Operations that had been running for years, suspended. Assets that had been developed over decades, pulled from contact. Networks that had taken generations to build, frozen, because the man who knew all of them was gone. And the penetration that killed him may have revealed all of them. Now let us talk about what MOIS actually is. Because most people have heard of the IRGC. Most people have heard of the Quds Force. MOIS is less discussed publicly, but arguably more dangerous. The Ministry of Intelligence and Security was established in 1984, 5 years after the revolution. Created from the remnants of Savak, the Shah's secret police. Inheriting not just the institutional knowledge of Savak, but in some cases the actual personnel. Intelligence professionals who survived the revolution by demonstrating their value to the new government. Over 40 years, MOIS built one of the most capable human intelligence networks in the world. Not because Iran has unlimited resources, because Iran has patience. MOIS runs operations on timelines measured in decades, not years. An asset recruited in 2005 might not be activated until 2025, developed slowly, carefully, into a position of genuine access, then used once for something critical. The network that took 40 years to build is now frozen, because one man knew all of it, and one Tuesday morning, he was gone. Israel's operation against the MOIS director was not the first time. Mossad had reached inside Iran's intelligence apparatus. The history of Mossad operations inside Iran reads like a catalog of the impossible. The assassination of nuclear scientists, the theft of Iran's complete nuclear archive from a warehouse in Tehran, the insertion of the Stuxnet virus into air-gapped Iranian nuclear computers, the assassination of IRGC commanders. Each operation more audacious than the last. Each one executed in the heart of a security apparatus specifically designed to prevent exactly that kind of penetration. Each one successful. The pattern is not accidental. It reflects something fundamental about the intelligence competition between Israel and Iran. Iran builds walls. Mossad finds doors. Every wall Iran builds, every security protocol, every rotation system, every communication blackout, Mossad studies it, finds the human element, the person who knows the rotation, the person who has the schedule, the person who can be reached. Not with money, not with coercion, with something more powerful, belief. The belief that the path Iran is on is wrong, and that helping end it is worth the risk. The emergency session of the Supreme National Security Council convened at 1400 hours, 8 hours after the operation. The agenda had one item: how to respond. The options presented were three. Option 1. Direct military retaliation against Israel, ballistic missiles, drone swarms. The kind of response that Iran had executed twice before. In April 2024 and October 2024. Both times partially intercepted. Both times followed by Israeli counterstrikes. The military option was presented, then set aside. Because the calculus had not changed. Iran could launch, Israel could intercept. Israel would counterstrike. And the counterstrike would be more damaging than anything Iran had launched. Option 2. Proxy response. Activate Hezbollah. Activate Hamas remnants. Activate the Iraqi militias. The distributed response that imposed costs without direct attribution. The option was also presented, and also set aside, because the proxy networks had been degraded significantly by 18 months of Israeli and American operations. Hezbollah had been hit repeatedly, its command structure disrupted, its missile arsenal depleted. The proxy option was not unavailable. It was diminished, less capable of the kind of response that would demonstrate Iranian power rather than Iranian weakness. Option 3. Rebuild. Replace the MOIS director. Harden the security protocols again. Resume operations when the new director had assessed the damage. And respond when the response could be decisive rather than symbolic. The supreme leader sat in silence for 47 seconds after the three options were presented. Then he spoke. Option 3. With one addition. Find the asset. The internal investigation that followed the operation was the most intensive security review in MOIS history. Every person who had known the director's Tuesday schedule was identified. There were 11. All 11 were placed under investigation simultaneously, their communications reviewed, their financial records audited, their movements tracked retroactively using CCTV footage across Tehran. The investigation ran for 3 weeks. It found evidence of unusual communication patterns associated with one of the 11. The investigation did not find the asset, because the asset had been exfiltrated 4 days before the operation. Mossad had moved them, quietly, through a route that did not appear on any Iranian surveillance record. The asset was in a third country before Tehran knew what had happened. Will never be identified publicly. Will never return to Iran. has already provided debriefs that have filled gaps in Israeli intelligence about MOIS operations stretching back years. The asset is the operation that keeps giving. Long after the Tuesday morning in Tehran, the new MOIS director was appointed 19 days after the operation. His first act was to suspend all ongoing operations worldwide indefinitely. His second act was to begin the most comprehensive security review in MOIS history. Every communication protocol changed, every schedule system redesigned, every rotation algorithm replaced, every asset contact method altered. The institutional knowledge required to run those operations, the knowledge that resided in the previous director, gone with him. The new director is rebuilding from partial records, from subordinates who knew pieces, but not the whole picture. The whole picture existed in one place, in one mind, and that mind was gone. Iran will rebuild MOI. It will take years, perhaps a decade, to restore full operational capability. During those years, the networks are frozen. The operations are suspended. The assets are in hibernation. And Mossad is watching who comes back online first, which network reactivates, which asset makes contact, building the next file for the next operation. That is how this competition works. It does not end. It never ends. It just continues. At levels of sophistication that most people never see. In buildings that most people never know exist. Between services that never officially acknowledge what they do. The Mayan headquarters building on Pasdaran Avenue in Tehran is still standing, still operating. The Tuesday conference room has been repaired. The window replaced. A new director sits in a different chair, facing a different direction, in a room that has been swept for devices 17 times since the operation. Mossad knows the room has been swept 17 times because they still have sources inside the building, not at the level of the previous asset, but present, watching, reporting, building the next file for the next time. Israel reached the most protected intelligence official in Iran, in his own building, in his own chair. On a Tuesday morning, Tehran is still trying to understand how. Israel already knows how, and is already planning what comes next. Stay locked in.